Hi, this is Anne with Graphic Design How To, and today I'm going to share my graphic design story. So I'm also going to tell you about the biggest misconception or mistake that I made along my journey. Now, I also want to hear your graphic design story, so please take the time to share that in the comments section below. All right, let's get started. Okay, so when I was a kid, I had a My Little Pony coloring book, and of course I liked coloring the little pictures and all that, but my mom gave me tracing paper, and my favorite thing was to trace these little ponies. And this is my first memory of actually drawing, even though it wasn't technically drawing, it was just tracing. But later on in elementary school and high school, I just was drawing all the time and I really loved it. I loved all my art classes. So it made sense that I would go to college to do something art related. Now, my parents kind of pushed me away from doing fine art like drawing or painting as a major because they had always heard you can't make any money doing that. And back then, that was kind of true unless you got famous or something. Now everything has changed with the way the internet is. It is a lot easier to be an illustrator or, just make paintings and sell them and that kind of thing. You can do print on demand or have an Etsy shop. There are just a lot more options now. But anyway, graphic design was sort of a way that you could still do art, but you could also get a full-time job doing that. So that's what I decided to major in. Now, the weird thing was I wasn't really that into graphic design back then. So I changed my major a couple times to CIS, which was kind of like computer science, and then to psychology. But I ended up back at graphic design when I graduated. And so I ended up with a degree in that. Okay, now here's where the big problem, misconception, mistake, whatever you want to call it, comes in. I thought that since I'd done the work as a graphic design student, gotten my portfolio ready, did all the work on my resume and all those things, I thought somebody was just going to hand me a job. I thought this will be easy. I just need to send out a resume or two and one of those companies will hire me. It'll be great. So I sent out maybe 5 resumes. None of them called back. None of them called me for an interview, and I definitely did not get a job. And so what did I do? Did I send out 300 more resumes? Did I go back to my portfolio and start changing things and being like, is this really what I want companies to see me as? No, I didn't. I gave up and I just decided I would never be a graphic designer. I was working fast food at the time, and I just continued to do that for 5 years. Now, finally, I got to a point where I thought, okay, I've got to do something. I've got to change things or I'm going to be doing this forever. So I went back, I completely redid my portfolio, but I decided I'm going to become a graphic designer. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to do this forever until I get a job. So I probably applied to 30 jobs after I'd redone my portfolio and all that, and I ended up getting 2 or 3 interviews, and one of those companies actually hired me. This was for a digital pre-press job, and I stayed there for 6 months, and then another one of those original 30 companies, one of those companies called me, and that was a huge t-shirt company, and I was much more excited about that job. So I quit the pre-press technician job and went to work there, and I stayed there for 7 years. Now, it wasn't very creative, but I learned so much about the programs and that kind of thing. So it was much easier to get a job somewhere else with the experience that I got at that company. After that, I got a job where I was called a graphic engineer. I worked at a greeting card company, I worked at an app startup, and then I ended up at an agency. And the agency job was the most creative yet, and it was the most fun. Around the same time, I started making little designs for stock agencies like Shutterstock and 123RF. And I think there's about 12 big companies like that. So I started putting my designs on all those. And a couple years later, I started this YouTube channel and my Etsy shop. So a couple of years ago, all of these side projects I had going on started making enough money to where I could just quit my full-time job. Now, I do take on a few freelance jobs here and there, but by and large, most of what I do is just the passive things, which are Shutterstock, Etsy, Skillshare, and my YouTube channels. So that's my graphic design story. And the takeaway here is that if you really want something, you need to focus a lot of your energy and time on it. Pour everything you have into it. Redo your portfolio once, twice. I think in my entire career, I've redone my portfolio 4 times, and I'm sure if you've done it once, you know how much work that is. If you keep working on it every day, you will improve and you will find a job. You can't just give up after sending out 5 resumes. Okay, so let me know your graphic design story in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button. I'll see you next week with another graphic design video. Thank you.